Today's episode is a bit of a throwback. It's my conversation with Robert Ott. Now, Robert was the founder and former chairman of one of the world's largest independent music publishing companies, Olé. So if you are an independent artist looking to get a publishing deal, or if you are a songwriter wanting to understand more about what publishing is, this episode is for you. It's also great because Robert is so passionate, obviously, about the songs and the songwriters, and him and his wonderful wife Robin, they host this fantastic event every single year that is a really beautifully curated songwriters round where they invite top songwriters to come and share the songs and stories behind the songs to very small audiences. It's a really, really special occasion. And this year's 97 South Song Sessions is taking place very soon, Saturday, April 12th, at the O'Rourke Family Estate in Lake Country, BC. You can get tickets at 97southsongsessions.com. That's 97southsongsessions.com. This year, performers include Kim Mitchell. He's a multi-platinum Juno Award-winning rock performer, so you've probably heard of him. Marc Jordan as well, who's also a multi-platinum artist and songwriter. Lee Thomas Miller, who's the Nashville Song of the Year Award winner. He's had 7 number 1 hits, including Whiskey and You by Chris Stapleton and You're Gonna Miss This by Trace Adkins. And Wendell Mobley, who I saw, I want to say last year, maybe the year before, but he performed at 97 South, I think last year. I was bawling my eyes out. He writes the most incredible songs. He's one of my most favorite songwriters. He wrote There Goes My Life, performed by Kenny Chesney. And also, I think I might have even done a whole podcast episode on the song I Know You Won't by Carrie Underwood. If you are a singer and you like challenging vocals, he wrote that one. And trust me, you'd think, okay, Carrie Underwood knocks it out of the park. However, Wendell, hearing his version, please go Google it right now. Wendell Mobley, I Know You Won't. Not I Know You Won't. Go Google it. You will go Google it, but the song is called I Know You Won't. Please go check it out. His version vocally is just as beautiful as Carrie Underwood's. So yes, go check out the 97 South Song Sessions if you are a fan of the Songwriters Round setup, because they know how to do it really, really well. Again, the date is Saturday, April 12th, 8 p.m. at the O'Rourke Family Estate in Lake Country, BC. Tickets are available now. I will put the links in the show notes. And I have to extend a super quick thank you to Robert because he has also sponsored the 97 South Song Sessions challenge that is part of the upcoming Invermere retreat. So everyone who attends the retreat in Invermere this July is also entered to win a pass to the 2026 Rocket Retreat, $500 cash, $500 towards a package with the For the Record team, an artist development package with Rocket Vocal Studios, and a co-writing session with Grammy-nominated songwriter Bonnie Baker. So thank you so much for your support, Robert and 97 South Song Sessions, for that. For now, here is my conversation with the wonderful Robert Ott. Hello and welcome to the Rock Your Voice podcast. Vocal coaching tips that will transform your voice, interviews that will inspire, industry guidance, and so much more. Without further ado, let's get on with the show. On today's episode, I'm talking with Robert Ott. He was the founder and former chairman, CEO of Olé, which is one of the world's largest independent music publishing and recorded music and rights management companies. So he knows his stuff when it comes to publishing and the music industry. Robert was also the vice president and general manager of BMG Music Publishing Canada, a 5-time past president of the Canadian Music Publishers Association, sat on the board of directors for the CMRRA, and also elected to the SOCAN board and served as a director until 2017. So he knows his stuff, and if you're here to get some insight on the music industry or starting your career, getting into the business, you have come to the right podcast, my friend. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Robert Ott. I always start off with what is your first memory of music?
Well, I grew up in a very musical house. Okay. So, there was always music. My mom used to walk around the house singing spontaneously.
Nice.
So it was hard not to acknowledge that music, was a big part of life right from the get-go. And then, as I got older, because my folks listened to classical music mostly in the house,
Okay.
I didn't really get a lot of introduction to popular music of the time. And I went to this summer camp, and one of the projects was to build a crystal radio.
Cool.
And this thing was, it was a very simple piece of gear. I don't even think it required a battery. And I built it, and it pulled in one radio station, which happened to be the top 40 station in town.
Nice.
So at the time. And top 40 at the time was very eclectic. It was, you'd get country, you'd get pop, you'd get rock, you get all kinds of a mix of things. So I listened to that thing day and night after that, and picked up a lot of the popular songs. And I got very excited about songs at that time, and much to the chagrin of my parents, who wish I would stop wearing out the same 3 or 4 songs all day long.
Was it pretty early on you decided that music was something you wanted to have as a big part in your life, or did it just sort of unfold that way?
I think it took a while before I understood that there was a path to actually having a career in music. It didn't seem that obvious at the beginning, nor did I even imagine myself there. At the time I was listening to artists I respected and loved, and I didn't dream that necessarily I'd be any part of that world. It just seemed like I was in the audience, and I loved songs. And then eventually there was this guy in my high school, and he used to sit in the hallway and play guitar, and I'm not sure how they didn't throw him out, because he'd sit there and sing at the top of his lungs. And just seeing somebody sitting in a hallway turning their thoughts into music on the spot and relating it to other people, there's something magical about that for me. Amazing. That really got me thinking that maybe this is something that I'd like to be more involved in, and maybe there is a way to do it for a living and have a career in it. And that's sort of how I started thinking about getting involved in the music industry.
And so how did that what did that path look like? When did that start to happen for you, and how did you start to get into the industry?
Well, I wasn't an overachiever scholastically, and I guess my mom kind of saw that the reason that I wasn't doing well at school was because I was playing music all the time, and at the time I was in a band and that kind of thing, and which led to the demise of my scholastic career. and she suggested perhaps I should act on what was obviously my greater passion, which was music, and pushed me to moved to Toronto. I grew up in Hamilton, just about an hour outside. And even though that the idea of moving to Toronto and, sort of pursuing some education related to music and the music business, at the time, music schools were just starting, like Trevis, which I eventually went to, and in Toronto were starting. So there was a little bit of education about the business available. And she encouraged me to do that. And so eventually, even though I was kind of terrified to do that, I moved up to Toronto when I was about 18 and started pursuing that. So that's how we began. And it was good because I got a lot of situational awareness about the business from having kind of a general education and introduction to it. Not to say I really knew anything when I got out of there, but
I hear you.
but I had some ideas about where things were situated in the business and who did what. And then I also met some people, which is obviously very critical in this business, knowing people and making connections, which I can't encourage enough. Even though connection is ultimately more available to people these days, the quality of the connection is probably less so. The quality of the connection that you make with people in person can never be overstated. It's still magic. It's still the way to connect with people best. And so, it was nice to make some early real connections with people that could help and could advise.
Right. So you mentioned you used to play in a band. What did you play?
Well, I was singing, and then I might need your help. And then in order to win the amplification wars, I started playing guitar.
I love that. So true.
We couldn't afford PAs at that time, and so typically I ran through the bass amp which isn't the best look for a vocalist. But anyway, so that's sort of necessity being the mother of invention. That's how I ended up
Yes.
playing guitar.
Yes, we've all been there.
But I think eventually I chose the right path in the business, which is not to burden people with my performance.
So that's awesome. So publishing is such it's such an interesting side of the industry. I try to educate myself on this side of the industry. It's so complex, and it's just so interesting to me. But are you able to give kind of in a nutshell or a very kind of brief outline of what music publishing is, or what your role as a music publisher is, to sort of summarize?
Well, it's a secret, really, so I can't tell you.
Fair enough. Good answer. That explains why I cannot get my head around it.
No, but seriously, I know a lot of people regard it as being a complex area, but it's like everything else. If you take a bit of time to try to understand it and get yourself, nominally educated, it's not really rocket science at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I think the way to think about, well, first of all, songs are intellectual property, so they have a copyright as of creation. Inside of our copyright system, and the copyrights allow you to do a few things. There are moral rights in copyright and economic rights.
Okay.
The moral rights are the right to claim authorship and the right to prevent the distortion of your work, and those are really more non-economic rights.
Right.
They're more about preserving the legacy that you've created. The other rights are economic rights, like the performing right. And anytime a song is performed in public, it is capable of earning royalties for the performing right. And there are reproduction rights for things like reproduction in a download or on a recorded music format like a CD or vinyl album or those kinds of things. And now, of course, also with streaming. I mean, streaming is both a performance and a reproduction. Right. So these rights can either be used individually or as a bundle.
Okay.
And they can be licensed individually or as a bundle. And it behooves songwriters and everybody else involved in the industry to understand how these work, because obviously if you take good care in watering the garden of your babies, your songs, you also want to be able to continue to make a living and eat while you're doing it. So it's important to learn about this stuff, and and then hopefully work with good people to help you curate those songs and get them to be all they can be.
Cool. So how did you go from singing through your bass amp and being like, I've decided I'm going to go into publishing? What was that transition all about?
Well, I was always very attracted to songs, even more so than recordings. And I clocked early that there's a particular song to be recorded by numerous artists in different ways.
Right.
And that those interpretations can be as widely varying as you could imagine. Yeah. So it was fascinating to me that a particular song could be in the epicenter of all that interpretation, and that's the inception of everything else.
Love it.
So songs in particular were of interest to me, and then I learned that there was a business that actually dealt with songs.
Yes.
I thought, well, this is wonderful. Now we have two great things coming together, business and I can't say I thought it through a lot more than that at the beginning.
Right.
I loved songs. I wanted to be able to work with them and songwriters and the creators of songs. And then, I had to understand the business to do so. So that's how my journey in music publishing really began. And then, it was a lifelong journey in learning about it.
Totally. So did you have a specific mentor or someone who helped kind of guide you along the way, or did you step in with a label right away, or how did it all begin?
Well, at the beginning, nobody wanted to talk to me about anything. Right. So I networked a lot with people. I had this binder, and I had everybody that I spoke with. If they wanted to speak to me, I put their name in the book. If they didn't want to speak to me, I got them to give up their friends. It's like, somebody I could speak to,
Nice.
and then I would speak to that person. And then, sort of on a monthly basis. And this was before, all the wonderful things we have today. Like, we didn't have email, we didn't have any of these things at the time. We barely had phones, for crying out loud.
Yes.
So I would phone each of the people in my book every month with some, sort of reason to call them, some news that I had or something I was working on. I started recording airplay records with some local artists. Nice. And, promoting the songs. I mean, we did everything: recorded, produced, printed the records, did the covers, called the radio stations, all this stuff, like from A to Z, really. And learned a lot about how the whole food chain of getting music from inside your head to the public, how all that worked, all those steps. So that was sort of the beginning of being actually involved in creating new things and bringing them to people and to the public, and finding out if they like it or not. And then of course the aftermath, which is hopefully collecting some royalties and so forth, enough to do it again, right? So that was sort of the beginning. It was very simple and rudimentary, but very educational, and a great way to learn by doing.
Totally. That's kind of how I really loved my experience with radio, because I literally came in when I first moved to Canada, and I didn't have my working visa yet. So I was like, can I do anything for free around here? I'll make the coffee, I'll do whatever. 2 days later, they had me on air for the drive show. They're like, we love the accent, let's get going. I was like, I did not expect this to happen. But I also, because of the situation, they were like, can you help this department, can you help that department, can you help this? And I think that's so important in the music industry, and especially as an artist, to learn every element that's going to impact your artistry and your music business. And so many artists, like you say, like, then there's the royalties at the end of it. You gotta eat. Like, so many creatives always sort of tend to forget that side of things, or just hate that side of things. So
I think one of the most important things about starting is the start.
Right. Yes.
I think there are so many things that you don't know about yourself when you're younger, that you learn by doing things that are outside of your comfort zone, that really show you things about your own person.
Yes.
And it shouldn't be such a mystery what it is that you're good at or not good at.
Yeah.
But it is a bit of a mystery. I think you can only learn it by doing. I mean, there's a point where education and the actual practical implementation of what you've learned are become two different things. Right. And so I would always encourage people to try a number of things, because you never know what's going to work for you. I was a very shy person when I was younger, and quite introverted. And I got myself into this job at the CBC clearing music and other rights for their TV shows. I'm not sure how that happened exactly, but it did. And suddenly I was thrown in the deep end on negotiating license, things like that, which I'd never negotiated anything. And turns out I was pretty good at it. So this was a huge surprise to me.
Wow.
I would have not thought, because, it's a somewhat confrontational process.
Yeah.
It's not bad, but just confrontational. It's, you want something somebody else doesn't want. You have to figure out what the answer is and get to an accord that moves things forward.
Yes.
So, I mean, this was not something I'd ever done. So that's an example of like how you can discover things by doing things that you're not comfortable with.
Totally.
Yeah.
Sometimes just being in the deep end and seeing if it's your thing. Yeah.
Totally.
That's incredible. So you went on to launch your own independent publishing and recording rights management company, and huge success. So tell me a bit about that. How did that begin, and at what point were you kind of like, you know what, it's time, I can do this? It's, I guess, kind of speaking of that confidence side of things.
Well, interestingly, after working independently in music for many years, I was able to come in and take the top job at BMG Music Publishing in Canada at the time.
Right.
And I was there for a number of years, and then it became clear that BMG was going to be sold,
Mm-hmm.
which it eventually was, to Universal and Sony, on the publishing and recorded music side, respectively.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see that developing, and I decided it was time to move on. And really, I started Olay at the time, the company that I founded, because I needed a job.
I love it. I love it, love it, love it.
Because this was, I felt that the situation there at my alma mater was coming to an end, certainly in the way that it had been, for me. And so I needed to get ahead of that. And
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I started the company, and, for a while I was kind of working at both places.
Okay.
for,
Yeah.
for a few months, and it was pretty hectic because I didn't stop working night and day, because I started a company and I was still at the other company, and finishing up there. And that was really fairly simple at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And also, the beginning of this trend had started that we're seeing today, where last year we had something like $5 billion of private equity cash coming into the song market.
Right.
That the idea of that was beginning.
Right.
That music publishing had an annuity like property, and that for people in the financial sector, it was an attractive alternative to the vicissitudes of the stock market.
Right.
Non-correlated, as they say.
Yeah.
So suddenly, there was an audience across the aisle in the financial sector for music.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, not only did most of the music business not understand music publishing, right, no one else did either.
Yeah.
So, it was a little like explaining math to somebody in a foreign language that they don't understand.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of tomato going on, but eventually I was able to find some minds on that other side of the aisle who understood. Wow. And we could get our lexicon straight, like our respective terminology.
Yes.
This took some time, really. Like, I didn't know we have terms in the publishing business like net publisher's share and things like that. Mm-hmm. These all accord to financial terms in the financial sector. Yeah, they have their own versions of those words.
Right.
So we had to get this across, but clearly now it's very well understood across the aisle. So, but I was at the inception of that, and that's how we got funded originally. So, right. I mean, it was I still don't know what happened.
I love it.
We were able to launch with an investment of $40 million, which was just, originally I'd asked for a lot lesser amount. I just wanted to start a small mom and pop
incredible
music company and have a job. And then, I was told we can't invest that little. It's too much work for too little money.
Right.
So
right.
What do? You add a zero.
I like this theory. This is awesome. Oh, so sure. Good. So good. So based on your experience and everything that you've done and what you do, what advice would you give to an upcoming writer with regards to publishing? Do you feel like, because there's obviously with the streaming, and it's so easy now for artists to just, they create their baby and then they just send it off into the world without really thinking about properly dealing with the business side of things. And I guess some people also have that sort of fear of other people owning their property to an extent and not wanting to hand over songs to publishers and this, that, and the other. And what sort of advice would you give to an upcoming singer-songwriter who's in that situation where they have good music and they're just, what's the next step?
Well, I think there are something like 60,000 songs being added to Spotify on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. And I think this is the root of our answer here today.
Yeah, 100%.
If a tree falls in the forest.
Yeah.
So I think there's a fine line between the preservation of what is your intellectual property, your art,
Yeah.
and having that art shared with the public and with other people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're not interested in sharing your art, that's one thing, obviously.
Yeah.
But if you
Yeah.
are interested in sharing it and having other people enjoy it and making a living via that kind of a career, then it's about a couple of things. First of all, creating something that's great. It's if you look at the last year, I read a stat that said something like 75% of music streamed last year was classic music, like older catalog music.
Right. Right.
You know, that's an extreme proportion.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons potentially is that what we've got in looking at catalog music is a lot of the stuff that wasn't good, wasn't great. We don't hear it anymore out of that era.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that era has been curated for ultimately the best of the best.
Right.
At this point, right? And so I hope that a similar dynamic will take place now, where the up and coming artists of today will become great, and their best will be listening to that.
Yeah.
40 years.
Yeah.
But I do think that with a bewildering amount of work to be done by artists in outreach through social media and visually and all this stuff that is much more important today, I think some of the focus on craft can be lost.
Yeah.
And I would encourage that that's something that is still critically important, to be the best you can be at your art. And that takes work. Even if you're gifted, it takes work. If you're not gifted, it takes even more work.
Yeah.
But a lot of the great artists that I've been lucky enough to work with in my career, and there have been some great ones, I found that the people that were the greatest worked the hardest. They worked hard at everything.
Yes.
They outworked people. It wasn't always the most brilliant, but the most hardworking, and people willing to dedicate themselves to their craft and build it over time. Because it's like anything else. If you're an athlete or any other kind of endeavor, the way you show up isn't the way you leave the field. It's you grow, but through working, through learning, through getting better at your craft. And that's what I always appreciated about Nashville in particular, because the craft of songwriting is still alive there. There's an understanding that the inspiration is the beginning of the work.
Yes. Yes.
And then the rest of it comes. So I think that's a very important thought. And then on the other side of the fence, it's about building a team. Mm-hmm. A team that's right for you, that supports you, that fits with you, that ideologically is aligned with you. And that's, curating who those people are can be a lifelong thing.
Right.
It's finding the right people one at a time, if necessary.
Yes.
And that includes, people you work out with, your label, your music publisher, because if that team is strong, it makes you stronger and allows you to focus more on your art, which is, as an artist, what you would hope to be doing most of the time.
100%. It's so important. I love all of that, and I'm always, when I'm helping any of my clients when they're looking for artist development stuff, I'm like, build that team and get, your job is to be the artist and the creator. Like, don't obsess about all the other things that you can have an amazing team that can do for you and with you. So
and I think you have to collect great people in your life. It's like they might not be ready to work with you at a particular moment, but if you sense a connection and you sense that there's symbiosis there in that conversation, and it's not right at this particular moment, it may be right down the road. So it never hurts. And you mentioned mentors before, and I've had a few. At the beginning, it was more like I needed to show up enough for someone to care to mentor me.
Right. Yeah.
And then once I got to that point, yes, I mean, I had a few people along my path who were critical.
Right.
Whether they gave encouragement at the right time, or gave me information that opened my mind about things, or connected me with another person who was great.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, I always tried to collect people and remember them.
Yes.
And stay in touch. And that's part of your work in this industry also. You have to connect and remain connected with people.
And again, that comes back to the ability to meet in person more so than just the social media and all of that digital stuff too.
Sure.
You'd mentioned Nashville and the songwriting and everything out there, and I've just been losing my mind recently because, again, working with some clients who are going, writing their music and stuff, and some of them are like, well, you can download these beats or just buy these tracks online and I'll just write a song to that. And that personally for me is sort of like, I don't know whether I'd say I'm an old school songwriter. I'm getting up there now. But I'm like, it makes me, honestly, I wanted to put my head through a wall because I was like, you're doing what now with your music? You're just going to go on YouTube and find your song? Like, that to me, it feels so wrong. What are your thoughts on all of that kind of buying beats and all of that kind of thing that's going on these days?
Well, I saw quite a bit of that happening when I was in the chair, and I'm not sure I really mind what path we take to getting a great song. I mean, sometimes you get inspiration from other songs that you heard on the radio, or I'm not sure how that's different from listening to beats and getting inspired. I would hope that people fundamentally, though, learn how to play their instrument. And whether that's their voice, and you help people understand that the voice is an instrument and how it can be progressed and how you can learn to be a better vocalist. It's like learning the language. Is there anything else that broadens your perspective?
Totally.
If you learn how to play an instrument, you get a palette that instrument provides. And that palette, even within one instrument, is infinite. Like you can play a guitar and use it percussively. You can tap. You can do all kinds of things with that instrument that aren't linear. Some people devote their whole life to just trying to explore a small piece of that landscape. So every instrument that you pick up and even know enough to get arrested about gives you a broader horizon and more palettes.
Yes.
So you're restricting yourself if you're not thinking that way.
Totally.
So I for me, it's like I don't care where inspiration comes from. It comes from listening to the rain. It doesn't really matter if it comes from beats or whatever. But on the other hand, learning instruments and learning the language of music is very important to your progression and the ultimate amount of stuff that you're going to be able to put in front of your easel when you're painting.
Totally.
So to me, it's like it's not the end of the world, but it's not the whole world either.
Totally. And with regards to because I just found it so strange that people who are very musically inclined would be like, I'm just going to buy that track and sing over top of it, and there's my song. I find that really, really bizarre. Well, you're giving away all your creativity. Where's the process? Where's the fun? Go create your own beats and your own track. I baffles me from a creative standpoint. But yeah, I get totally the motivation and the inspiration from it. 100%.
Yeah, I think if it's used for inspiration, it's fine. The outcome is what we're all thinking about, I hope. And and on the other hand, it's I think your point is that maybe we've lost the focus on learning as much about instruments and how to play them as possible, because it helps us have a bigger palette. That's really it.
Totally. So what would be your sort of top things for people to think about if they were to be getting involved in a publishing agreement or that sort of situation? What should just if you have just a couple of tips, things for people to look for if they're going into a publishing agreement or if they're entertaining that kind of progression in their career?
Well, I think it's important to probably try to enter into an agreement with a publisher when you're ready, when it's time. I think that sometimes artists start getting a bit of a buzz and then everyone comes out of the woodwork, particularly today where a lot of companies are really focusing on the artist's ability to create their own market before the companies get involved. it's kind of like a version of getting in front of the parade when it's already started.
Okay, okay, yes.
So, you know, so, and I lament a little bit the lack of artist development focus in the music business now. You know, I think statistics like that 75% catalog music being streamed don't encourage companies to invest in artist development.
Right.
But if we're going to have continuous eras of this kind of catalog and legacy, we're going to have to spend money on artist development.
Yeah, yeah.
And artists are going to have to be ready to stay the course in a world with instant gratification.
Yes.
Or seemingly so. I mean, social media indicates to people that everyone has a wonderful life and is doing great and has achieved untold riches in their music career, even though they just started last week. Well, that's not reality.
Yeah.
You know, and if things happen expeditiously for certain folks, that may not be the case for everybody. So everyone's an individual. It's good to focus on your own life and your own world. Yeah. Your life isn't a competition with other people. Yeah. Your life is a competition with your own self.
Exactly.
And, you know, I think this is the place to begin. Decide that you're going to compete with your own self to be the best you can be, and write great songs and interpret them well. If you're an artist also, some people just write songs.
Yeah.
Decide you're going to be great at what you do, and the best you can be, and for your own self, and work on that. Yeah. And then begin to build outreach to the public. And once you're at a place where people are coming to you and asking you if you would like to do a publishing agreement with them, you know, you're onto something, because people are paying attention to you.
Yes, yes.
And I think developing consensus inside the business for artists is very important, because when I would sign people to deals, many times I would hear about them from other people in the business first.
Right.
There was, you know, that quote buzz would start happening about people. Not always, but many times you would hear about it. Once you heard about a person 6 or 7 times, you're like, what's going on here? So, you know, there's a sort of a curiosity develops. This is a time to be careful and to have discretion.
Yes.
Back to the thing about building your team and the people that you have simpatico with, and you have to listen to what's being said, not just about the money, but you have to listen to what's being said on a personal level.
Right.
And deciding whether what you're hearing is genuine. And, you know, money is one thing, and ongoing support and attention and focus is another. And I would suggest the latter is more important.
Yeah.
It's much more important to know that you have people that have conviction about what you do as much as you do. Because you can find people that are as passionate about your music and your performance as you are.
Yes.
Now you've got a team, and that's an arrangement and a business relationship worth doing and having.
Yeah.
Because it will elevate you. I mean, obviously the intent of those things is to allow you to do better than you could on your own.
Yeah, exactly.
To have a group effort and team behind you. And really, you know, the artist, in my view, through my whole career, I came to the viewpoint the artist is a CEO of everything.
Yeah.
If they have a label working with them, they're still the CEO.
Yeah.
If they've got a publisher working with them, they're the CEO. So it doesn't mean you abdicate your responsibility for whatever area. Right. It means that you have now team working for you on those areas.
Yes.
There is no company in the world that can supply things for the artist like motivation, ambition, hard work, talent. I mean, these things cannot be imbued. They exist or they don't.
Yeah.
And then the artist is responsible for that. And they have to think of themselves that way, you know? And when I was lucky enough to meet people like Taylor Swift and great artists like that, they all have that quality.
Yeah.
Nothing is too small for them to worry about, or too outside of their area of expertise to care about or work on or learn about. You know, most of those artists who get to that level are really heavily involved in all aspects of their career, and they don't allow people inside the fence who are not team.
Right, right.
That's the fundamental criteria to me.
I love it. I love all of that so much. So here's probably the toughest question. For the man who's based his entire life around the love of songs. What's your favorite song?
Oh my goodness. That's a tough one. There are some songs that I would say are real standouts for me. One of them would be Desperado by the Eagles.
Okay.
This song is a perfect song. I can't think of one thing wrong with it. It's just perfect.
Okay, what makes it perfect? What makes it perfect?
To me, that song is like the sculpture inside the piece of wood.
Okay.
It was not written, it was delivered.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
That's one of those songs that I felt was, delivered by the universe or God or whatever you believe that is, that greater whole.
Wow.
And it, because it's just so, the lyric, the multiple layers of meaning in the lyric, the obviously just a little story, about a cowboy or whatever, but it's also a song about, embracing love and that kind of, so it has levels of meaning.
Yes.
It's lyrically very, very tight. It's not sloppy.
Yes.
It's craft, and then of course it's a beautiful melody, and delivered very, very soulfully. So one of the greatest songs ever written in my book.
Love it. I think that was one of the first songs I had to learn to play and sing at a school recital. I was obsessed with that song when I was a kid too.
Well, vocally, that's a song you're on your own. I mean,
it's a tough one.
Way to pick them.
Right.
way to pick your first performance. One where the singer is front and center, and just very important. The interpretation is, wow. You really know how to jump in on the deep end, don't you?
I don't like taking things easy. Oh my gosh, there goes another Eagles reference. But yeah, I don't like to do things the easy way. Oh my goodness. So super exciting thing is going on. We've got the 97 South Song Sessions coming up, because you and your wife are both lovers of music and songs. So you've done this event before, and you're going to have some of the world's finest musical performers coming to share their creative journey and their songwriting, kind of like a songwriter's round, isn't it?
That's right. Well, this is the fourth annual 97 South Song Sessions coming up in Penticton, British Columbia. This summer, we were fortunate enough to be able to present the show last summer, despite COVID and all the rest of the maze of obstacles we had. And it was wonderful and basically sold out. So fantastic. We're going to do it again. It's a Bluebird style show where songwriters perform in the round. They're performing their hit songs. They're talking about how those songs got created. They're talking about their journey in music and their careers.
Love it.
Great stories, funny, sad, otherwise, you laugh, you cry. It's a roller coaster of emotions in the show. And we do it in the setting of one of the most beautiful places in the world that I've ever been, in Penticton, in the Okanagan Valley. Stunning. It's nearly paradise there. So we couldn't think of a better thing to pair with wine and that beautiful scenery. Amazing. Than songwriters and songs. So this is really how it started. It's that simple. A whole bunch of things we love, all in one bundle. Love it. And I have to say, a lot of the audiences that have come in past years perhaps have not even seen a show like this.
Okay.
And they all, like the comments after the show and the wonder it creates in people. It's just such an intimate show, and an ability to really access the epicenter of music and how it starts and is created and related, and have the people in the room who created those songs, and just everybody just realizes we're all people. We're relating to our lives and each other's lives through music. These are the songs that we lean on when we're having a tough time in our life, or that we laugh to when we're having a fun night or a fun
Yes.
time in our life. Songs and music are universal language that explain our lives and help us deal with things that we come upon in life that we don't understand. And other people have gone through them and have written songs about them and
Yes.
have related how they felt. So I think that's the important thing about music that's different than reading an article about how to get over feeling down. Well,
Right.
nobody wants to read a manual about that.
Mm-hmm.
We want to hear about how people felt and how they worked out the feelings.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, we're emotional beings. So this is why music is so special and important.
Yeah.
Because it surmounts language, it surmounts culture, it surmounts pretty much everything. And if you can write something that great, it's such a powerful opportunity to move people. Totally. And this is when you know you have a hit song. Right. What's a hit song? It makes you feel something. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It doesn't make you feel something. What are you doing? Right. Oh, you know, that's the sum total of the entire effort.
Yeah.
So we want to bring that experience to people.
I love
and bring some of the greatest. And this year we've got some great people coming. And
you really do. You have Jeff Trott, who did a ton of stuff with Sheryl Crow. I'm so excited for that, as well as so many more. Who else is coming?
And we've got Krista Stefano, who wrote hits for Carrie Underwood and Rascal Flatts and many others. And Tim Nichols, obviously Grammy winner, who wrote Live Like You Were Dying. Mm-hmm. Marc Jordan, who's written many hit songs for Rod Stewart and other folks. Just some of the best talent in the world. And it'll be really a lot of fun. So I encourage people to come out, go to the beach, enjoy the sun, drink some wine, and listen to some great songwriters.
Fantastic.
Perfect, right?
I know, right? I saw, it was actually my husband that he sent me the link. He'd seen it online and he's like, hello, have you seen this? And I was like, what? This is amazing. I'm honestly like a huge Sheryl Crow fan. So when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is just, I have to be there. I have to be there. And I have to connect with these wonderful people who are creating this phenomenal experience. So yeah.
It's really very special. So I encourage everybody to come and see it and support the writers also.
Yes.
It's been a long, hard drought for performers and songwriters and everybody out there. We haven't been able to do a lot of live shows. And so once again, I just saw how excited people were to be in a room together last summer, to hear live music, to be able to talk about live music and music with each other in a room. I mean, whoever thought we'd be disconnected from that human experience, but we have been.
Yeah. I am so excited. The website is 97southsongsessions.com. That's 97, the numbers, so 97southsongsessions.com. And maybe I'll see you there. And I'll put all the links in the show notes because, yes, you would be crazy to miss this incredible opportunity just to experience this. And if you can get there, highly, highly recommend it. It's going to be phenomenal. I'm so excited. So, anything else you'd like to share, Robert? It's been so good to talk with you, and I really, really appreciate you taking this time. This whole side of the industry, like I said, it fascinates me. I had a publishing deal back in the UK myself. Half of it didn't have a clue what was going on. But, it's part of the journey as an artist. So to be able to get more of an insight and learn more, this is really, really fantastic information to be able to share with the listeners and everything. So I truly, truly appreciate your time.
Well, thanks for having me on. I would encourage up and coming artists to listen to their own voice and their own mind. When I started in the business, pretty much everyone told me I was crazy and I should not do it and I should get a job. And I should have a plan B. And I hated hearing all of that. To me, it was like, and I said this at a speech I gave at the Canadian Country Music Awards some years back. I said something to the effect of, don't take advice about risk from people who aren't willing to take one.
Yes!
To me, it's like, that's it in a nutshell. You got to follow your own drummer, so to speak,
Yes.
and decide what's right for you and persevere in it and decide that you're going to be happy
Yes.
about where you are. I can't say I always was happy. I look down, if you know what I mean, a lot of times, and I saw the lives of my compatriots in life progressing while mine wasn't necessarily progressing in the same way. And there was the, I didn't have a lot of things, houses, cars, all that kind of stuff that everybody else seemed to have for a lot of years. And it took me a long time to catch up. But, I would say that what I had in my life was passion and excitement and music and people, great people. So, I couldn't get that back working 9 to 5 for my entire life. So, I just, not that that's a bad choice either, but for people that choose this, it is what it is. And you have to commit to it and follow it with your own heart and your own passion. So, and not be swayed by anyone.
Yes.
I never had a plan B. I thought that was dangerous.
I love this. This is so awesome. Thank you.
I thought it was dangerous to have a plan B because I might start really thinking about it.
Yes.
So I actually found that whole idea kind of offensive.
100%. 100%. This is just, this is awesome.
I guess that's my non-musical advice in a nutshell on the way artists and people in music should think, or the way that they can most comfortably surmount the numerous obstacles they're going to face.
Yes, well, that's it. If you've got plan B in the background all the time and you're not 100% committed, it's not going to work. I
think that could be said for anything, really.
Yeah, totally.
I don't think music is particular in that way. I think anything you want to achieve greatness in, it's like, and then there's a maturation of your own confidence.
Yes.
I thought, what if I could publish a few songs and work with some songwriters in my hometown, which I did.
Yeah.
Then I moved to Toronto and I thought, what if anybody would care about me in this big city? And then that started happening. And I thought, well, I wonder if I could, maybe somebody would pay attention to what I'm doing in the United States. And then that started to happen. And I realized, well, this is just all one foot in front of the other.
Yes.
There's steps, there's learning, and then there's action.
Totally.
Then you just have to try it.
Yeah.
And listen to good advice, but make up your own mind. That's really it.
And remember that there's steps. It's not the social media. It's going to happen in 2 days. It's just that there are the steps. Take the steps and be ready to take them.
I mean, it might. I mean, I wish I were that person, but I've never been that person. It happens to other people. Never happened to me. I've always had to work hard for everything I got. And so I encourage that attitude. And if it comes in 2 days, God bless it.
Amazing. Well, thank you again so much for taking this time to talk with me. And I'm definitely going to be out there for the 97 South Song Sessions. So I hopefully we'll have some of that wonderful face-to-face interaction as opposed to the cyber stuff.
I sure hope so. Awesome. I'm ready to get back to it.
Excellent.
Thank you for having me today. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you. So be sure to go check out 97southsongsessions.com. You can get your tickets there. It's going to be hit songwriters, hit songs, amazing stories in the stunning Okanagan, a full weekend festival with 8 award-winning songwriters. So go get your passes today because strong chance that they might sell out. And if you go, I would love to see you there. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please feel free to like, share, subscribe, and if you feel inclined to leave a review, I truly, truly appreciate it. You can check out all things voice at rockitvocalstudios.com. That's ROCKIT vocalstudios.com. And follow me on social too at Rocket Vocal Studios. Thanks again for listening, and I'll be back with lots more for you very, very soon.